pitch by Smoltz. He is cooking. Final game of the three-game series between the Atlanta Braves and the Toronto Blue Jays, coming your way from Turner Field on a hot Sunday afternoon. Hi, everybody. Pete Van Weren along with Don Sutton welcoming you to Atlanta. The Braves and Blue Jays, winners of a game apiece in this three-game set, about to wrap up the three-game set. First of all, some news. Roster move made by Atlanta. After the game last night, Curtis Pride had to go on the disabled list. He suffered a cut hand when he banged a bat into the wall after making an out late in the game last night. Randall Simon called up from Richmond in a timely call-up. Randall in last night's game for Richmond, 3 home runs and 10 RBIs. He'll be in the lineup today playing first base for Atlanta. The halfway point of the season, Don Sutton, the Braves accomplishing most of what they set out to do, 52 wins on a pace to win 104 games. But like every team, there are some areas of concern. And as a fan, what should fans look for the second half?
Well, I think there are some obvious things. You could generally say the bullpen is an area to keep an eye on, but I'd like to be a little more specific. I keep an eye on second base. Keith Lockhart's health is a key. Tony Graffinino has been struggling offensively. Out of those two, you need to get one set of good productions. Mark Wohlers is a big question, and I think this club needs Mark Wohlers out there or someone like Mark Wohlers to win. And in the starting rotation, John Smoltz's health. John, every now and then will give you indications he's 100%, but every now and then he's not sure. And Kevin Millwood needs to continue to blossom. But in my mind, Pete, this ball club can win regular season. No question about it. But I think it needs to be fine-tuned a little bit to go into postseason, because postseason you're going up against people who are every bit as good as you are. Key player of the second half, John Schuerholz. He always has something up his sleeve. He'll do it again this year.
It'll be Tom Glavine on the mound today. Chris Carpenter, his mound opponent, will be back with all the action from Turner Field right after this.
It happens. Home stores. For the right parts at the right price, look no further than AutoZone. By Olympic, America's #1 selling exterior stain. And by the Home Depot, America's home improvement coach.
Full parking lot. You know it's hot on the asphalt, but how about inside Turner Field? What does it look like? Right around 100. Even the older bodies will have no problem getting loose today. Game 3 of the series about set, get to go. First of all, let's take a look at our Turtle Wax starting lineup. For the Toronto Blue Jays, their young center fielder Shannon Stewart will lead it off. Sean Green to bat second. Mike Stanley, you forget he is with Toronto, left field batting third. Carlos Delgado, the first baseman, to hit cleanup. Ed Sprague moves up a few notches to the 5th spot. New catcher in there this afternoon, Mark D'Alessandro. Craig Graybeck will bat 7th and play second base. Alex Gonzalez, their fine shortstop, hitting in the 8th spot. And Chris Carpenter, he's a big one, 6'6", about 220, will be on the mound and batting 9th. Braves D will line up this way. Ryan Klesko will get a fielder's glove, go back to left field. Andrew Jones again in center. Michael Tucker again in right. Randall Simon just got in after a fine night last night. He's at first. Keith Lockhart at second. Chipper Jones again at third. Javier Lopez behind the plate and on the mound, sporting a 10-3 record. This time last year, the earned run average about the same, but Tom Glavine, a little bit luckier, getting a few more runs, making a few more pitches. He is 2 wins up on this time last year. Glavine, 1 complete game, the league hitting .253 against him. Our umpiring crew, keep an eye on them today. It's going to be a hot one out there. There'll be some breaks for this veteran crew to get themselves a glass of water and a cool towel. Bruce Fremming ringing up the balls and strikes. Larry Vanover at first. Mark Hirschbeck at second. And Eric Gregg will be over at third. There's a look at the umpires. Pete, today, a good day to be very efficient. Not too many pitches, not too many deep counts. It's going to be a hot day, and you don't want it to be a long, hot day.
And that'll be the key for Tom Glavine, who's getting ready to go now against Shannon Stewart. 257 with a couple of home runs. 2 out of 5 in this series, and the first pitch high and away, ball 1. We say that about Glavine because he has had some occasional games this year when his control has not been as pinpoint as he'd like it to be, and a lot of deep counts at times. He'd like to avoid that today. But he's down in the count on the leadoff man, Shannon Stewart, 2-0. Sean Green will follow, and then Mike Stanley. There's a strike. The count 2 balls and a strike on Shannon Stewart. Glavine 1-1 against the Blue Jays in the '92 World Series, but not many of them left on this ball club. Here's the 2-1. Little fly ball, shallow right. Tucker for the catch, one away. One gone. That'll bring up Shawn Green. Blue Jays in that loss last night had a 6-game winning streak snapped. They are a game over 500 and might have been in better shape as they reached the halfway point of the season, Don. I think one of their big disappointments this year was the fact that Jose Cruz Jr., who they were counting on to be a big cog in the middle of their batting order, he's back at AAA right now.
Yeah, I remember last year when that deal was made, everybody said Seattle got their pockets picked, but now all of a sudden, after a year of looking at that, they're reevaluating their thoughts. No doubt he is going to be a good one, but Pete, they were saying and talking to some of the Blue Jays that he was almost completely undisciplined at the plate this year.
The 0-1 word gets around, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
When that happens. 1 ball, 1 strike on Shawn Green.
There are no secrets. If one pitcher finds out something about you, the whole league will know it in 72 hours.
Here's the 1-1 now on Shawn Green, and it's down low in the count, 2-1. Mike Stanley in the on-deck circle. Here's the 2-1 delivery. A little bloop into right center field. Andrew Jones going to have to play this one on the hop. One of the few times you'll see the Braves defense set up in such a way to prevent a ball like that from dropping in, and a guy goes against what the defense has set. They were set to have him hit a ball to left center field. He hit it to right center.
And probably if he'd have hit it like they were expecting him to, that's where it would have gone. But he got jammed so badly he couldn't force it, couldn't drive it.
Now Mike Stanley, 263 with 18 home runs this year. He's out in left field. He's making his first appearance in the outfield since July of 1987. He is normally the DH for Toronto, but playing in the National League ballpark, this will be his first plate appearance of this series, and he's been a hot hitter. They've tried to figure out a way to get his bat in there. And today, Tim Johnson playing him in the outfield. Got a 7-game hitting streak on.
He's a veteran hitter. He's a very intelligent hitter. And he is a guy that realizes the elements of the day. And he's also a guy that's going to make Tom Glavine throw him some strikes.
1 man out, Green, the runner at first. And he hits him. Tried to come in on Mike Stanley, and he came in too far. Runners now at first and second. Nobody out for Carlos Delgado.
You don't see Tom Glavine do this very often. Usually when he comes inside with a purpose, and it's somewhere in the area of that inside corner. Looked like he just held on to that fastball a little too long, almost acted like a cutter.
So the Blue Jays trying to get something going here in the top of the first. Runners first and second, 1 out for Carlos Delgado. Has been a tough out in this series. Been a tough out the last couple of weeks. Up over 300 now with 13 home runs, 46 RBIs. His last 13 games, he's been held hitless in only 1 of them. One ball, no strikes on Delgado.
Even with Glavine out there, Pete, I'd like to see the Braves play a little bit more of a Bonds-type shift. Weiss move a little closer to second. Lockhart take the hole away. Because I think that Delgado is going to try to pull everybody. His swing is one that hooks the ball.
Here's the 1-0. There's a strike. 1 ball, 1 strike. And don't think because you got a left-hander out there that you're going to have that much more success against Delgado. He's actually hitting better against lefties. 333 against left-handers this year, 290 against right-handers. He really stays in against lefties. 1 ball, 1 strike. Foul away. It's 1-2.
If you're looking for a key on a left-hander as to whether or not he's staying in, watch the front shoulder more than anything. You know, you can step open with your right foot, but as long as the upper half of the body stays toward the pitcher, you can handle any pitch out away from you. Shows you he is capable of using the field. I'll bet you most of those hits to left field came against a left-hander. I'd still play him to pull.
Here's the 1-2 on the way, and there's a ground ball short. Walt Weiss goes to second. 1 there. Lockhart on to first. Scooped by Randall Simon for the double play. Good play by Weiss. Good play by Simon. 6-4-3 to get Glavine out of the top half of the first inning without a run scoring.
Nothing on the board for the Blue Jays. It's the Braves' turn at bat. Here's how they will line them up. Weiss to lead it off, Lockhart to follow, Chipper Jones in the third spot. Heart of the order, Klesko, Lopez, and Tucker, Randall, Simon, Andrew Jones, and Tom Glavine complete the batting order. Defense for the Blue Jays, Stanley, Stewart, and Green in the outfield. Sprague, Gonzalez, Graybeck, and Delgado the infield. D'Alessandro behind the plate, and a big, long, lanky right-hander who has done a good job in interleague play this year. He'll hate to see it in. It's Chris Carpenter, overall 4-2 with a 4.6.
And Walt Weiss leads it off for Atlanta. 328, no homers, 16 RBIs. First pitch on the way from Chris Carpenter as a strike in the outside corner. Talking with Walt before the game, he's very upbeat today. His son Brody doing much better, and that's good news. Here's the 0-1 now from Carpenter, and Walt Weiss nicked by a pitch. So in the first inning, Tom Glavine has hit a batter, and Chris Carpenter has hit a batter, and those aren't the only similarities between Glavine and Carpenter. This is not the Chris Carpenter that used to be the punter for the University of Georgia.
Just nipped it.
This Chris Carpenter is from the same part of the country Tom Glavine is from. He's from Exeter, New Hampshire, and he too was a baseball and hockey star in high school. Here's Keith Lockhart now, 268 with 4 home runs, up high, ball 1.
With his size, I would guess he was pretty much of an enforcer when he played hockey.
You would think so. First round pick back in the '93 free agent draft by the Blue Jays. Only 23 years old. Line into right center field. Base hit. Just beyond the reach of Graybeck. Down to second goes Weiss. And the Braves have put runners at first and second with nobody out for Chipper Jones.
Why Lockhart hasn't been pulling the ball of late. That left shoulder not allowing him to roll it over. But that's the kind of swing we've seen from him earlier in the year, where he's able to get the head of the bat out, over, and towards second. Looked like a pitch on the outer half, too.
Now Chipper Jones, 304 with 18 home runs, trying to battle his way out of a slump. He's 0 for 7 in this series, 1 for 15 on this homestand. Showing bunt on the first pitch, taking inside ball 1, and the slump even longer than that. Goes back 31 at bats, only 3 hits in his last 31 trips. But you take those numbers and double them. If this is the halfway point of the season, you're talking about a 36 home run, 124 RBI season.
There won't be anybody moaning in October with that.
In all likelihood, Chipper Jones will get the nod as the starting third baseman on the National League All-Star team. He was way ahead in the balloting in the last report. Those results coming up in the upcoming week. One other Brave, Walt Weiss, also leading in the balloting at his position at shortstop. That would be a first for him. Here's the 2-0. Just off the corner, 3-0 now, and Chipper Jones. Ryan Klesko on deck. Tim Johnson, first-year manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, and getting good reviews for his work with this ball club. There's a strike, 3-1.
Not a bad idea to go with somebody fresh when you're bringing in a bunch of young players, you know, first or second year players. Sometimes fresh ideas, new players mesh well.
Very successful minor league managing career, primarily in the Cubs organization. And he was a scout for a while. Bases loaded, nobody out after the walk to Chipper Jones.
Let's see how close this was. Been interesting to see what that would have been called last night.
Bases loaded, nobody out. Ryan Klesko, the hitter, up over 280 now, 281 with 13 homers and 45 RBIs, and the Braves' hottest hitter over the last 3 weeks, a 403 average in his last 19 games with 5 homers.
Normally you say, Pete, make him throw a strike. Would be surprised to see Ryan Klesko look for something up in the strike zone here. Most young pitchers, after they've struggled a while, want to make sure they get a strike. Klesko could get something to hit on the first pitch.
Line away, ball 1. Without Andres Galarraga out of the lineup again, still looking for the first RBI from the cleanup spot. No RBIs, just 1 for 14 trying to replace Galarraga. They hope to get Andres back in the lineup on Tuesday in Tampa. 2-0 now on Ryan Klesko. Klesko has hit a grand slam home run this year. Mel Queen, the pitching coach, out now to try to settle down Chris Carpenter.
Here's a guy 6'6", not using his leverage. Watch where the elbow goes down, and then he throws up, not getting up over the top and throwing down. The elbow was almost tucked against his side. It's impossible to get downward plane on the ball when your elbow's tucked in. About the only thing you can do is just what he's done, squirt him up and away.
The meeting over. Mel Queen back to the Blue Jays dugout. Mel Queen, another member of a baseball family. He pitched for the Cincinnati Reds. His dad was a pitcher for the Yankees and the Pirates back in the 40s. 2-0 pitch. Up the middle by Klesko. Base hit. That gets 1 run in. Weiss will score. Here comes Lockhart around third. The throw will be cut off. 2 runs in. And the first 2 RBIs from the cleanup spot since Andres Galarraga went down belong to Ryan Klesko. RBIs number 46 and 47. And it's now 2-0 Atlanta.
Taking advantage of situations. A hit by pitch, a walk, behind in the count, got a pitch to handle, didn't try to do too much with it, content with a base hit, got the Braves on top. See, that's a strike, but it's a pitcher's strike. He tries to pull that, pretty good chance you get 2 outs on it. That's some more good hitting by Klesko.
Still nobody out in the inning. Javi Lopez steps in, 308 with 19 homers and 58 RBIs. He too could be looking at a trip to the All-Star game. Looks like Mike Piazza will win the balloting, but Javi Lopez and Jason Kendall, 2 other catchers in the National League, deserving of All-Star recognition. Pops this one up. Shallow right center field. Graybeck there for the catch. The infield fly rule in effect. 1 gone. And now Michael Tucker. Tucker hit his 11th home run last night. He has driven in 35, batting .278. Emerging from a slump. He was in a batting slump coming off that road trip, but he's gone 4 for 10 on this homestand with that homer.
You know, Bobby Cox said about him, though, he wasn't concerned about the numbers because he thought he was making good contact most of the time. He just seemed to be hitting into about 16 players out there instead of 8.
First and second, 1 down, 2 runs in. Line right field, base hit for Tucker. Chipper Jones around third. He'll score. Klesko heading for third. Tucker, big turn at first. They might get him trying to go back. Now they've got him hung up. Delgado chasing him. The tag applied by Gonzalez. Klesko has to stay put at third. A rare base running error for Michael Tucker. He's always very aggressive on the bases. Was thinking about the double, but this time he got caught. Give him 1 RBI, though. It's 3-0.
He always runs aggressively. Another pitcher's strike. Got enough of it to get it down the right field line. Tucker is thinking double all the way. The throw comes back to second. Perfect throw. Back over to the first baseman. And right now the guy keeping a close eye on all of this is Ryan Klesko, but there was never enough exchanges in throws for Klesko to come down the line.
That was perfectly executed by the Blue Jays. Right back up the middle off the bat of Randall Simon. His first trip back to the big leagues, an RBI single. He had a game last night at Richmond where he tied a record for a Richmond Braves player with 3 home runs and set a record for a Richmond Braves player with 10 RBIs. He also had a double in that game last night in 5 at-bats. So in his last 6 at-bats, he's driven in 11 runs.
Randall Simon is also a player, Pete, that you don't want to get into a situation where you think you have to throw a strike. He swings at anything, and his strike zone's probably 30 inches across.
Now the 8th man to bat in the inning with 4 runs in. Andrew Jones, 269, 12 homers. Little pop foul coming back out of play. And that was a long time coming last night for Randall Simon. He had been struggling after a terrific year at AAA last year. That big night last night got him up to 254, 10 homers, 46 RBIs, but he only had 36 RBIs going into the game last night, and they were looking for bigger numbers than that from him. Lined up the middle, base hit, center field. Randall Simon takes the turn at second, and Chris Carpenter getting hammered here in the first inning.
Everything up in the strike zone, everything where a hitter can handle it. And if you're content to take base hits, you can get a lot of them off of those pitches. If you want to try to jerk the ball and hit home runs, you're not going to be successful. Look like a slider up in the strike zone, but out away from him. Tom Glavine has been getting on an average about 6 runs a ball game this year, so no surprise to see him put some on the board for him early here.
He is 4 for 30 as a hitter this year, a 133 average. Still only 2 outs in the inning. Foul back, 0-1. Big first inning for Atlanta and for Tom Glavine. He's the 9th man to bat in the inning. Runners first and second. Tom can help himself with a bat too. One ball, one strike. A hit batsman, a walk, and 5 singles. 1-1. 2-1. That evens the count on Glavine. 2 balls, 2 strikes. It is full now, 3-2, and now the runners get a head start. Jones from first and Simon from second.
Not a whole lot of variety in his pitches, are there?
No.
Same spot, same velocity.
There go the runners. The 3-2 hit back up the middle. Base hit center field for Glavine. Randall Simon rounding third, heading home. Andrew Jones over to third. 5 runs across. Glavine drives in his 3rd run of the year. And a very uncharacteristic first inning for Chris Carpenter.
Well, he's been trying to go away with everybody. Got it in the heart of the plate. You said it. Glavine is a guy who can help himself with the bat, and he's also a patient hitter. All these hits have come on pitches that if you try to pull them, you're going to make outs. Braves haven't tried to pull a single one of them except for Michael Tucker.
Now Walt Weiss, who got this whole thing started when he was hit by a pitch leading off the inning. Upstairs, ball 1. 5 runs, 6 hits in the bottom of the first. Two 2-0, the count on Weiss. Here's the 2-0 to Weiss. There's a strike at the knees. Just now is the Toronto bullpen swinging into action. It's the veteran Dave Stieb coming back after a 5-year absence from the game. Two and two the count. It's always tough for a manager when a pitcher gets in this quick trouble in the first inning. You think he might be able to get out of it, maybe make one pitch, get a double play early in the inning. It doesn't happen. Then he gets the 2 outs, and you say, well, he's only got to get 1 more out, and we're out of this with 4 runs. Maybe he'll settle down. Doesn't happen. And all of a sudden, you're down by 5, and you've got to get that bullpen ready. 2-2.
See, there's that drop the elbow down, throw uphill, and I think that's has to be an indicator for Chris Carpenter from the beginning. Elbow down, throwing uphill, not staying tall and working downhill.
Grounded fouls. Still 3-2 on Weiss.
He's working against what he should be doing naturally. A guy who was 6'6" leverage should be able to come right up over the top and fire that ball down about knee high, unless you do have a tendency to. It's almost like a shot putter, Pete. It's pushing the ball instead of throwing it. That's an awful lot of pitches on a hot day like today.
Again, the 3-2 to Weiss. Didn't mean to. Almost got hit again. That one caught the bat. It's still 3-2.
Carpenter has a look of a guy right now that's just getting the ball and throwing it. It doesn't really matter where he sets up. That ball caught the barrel of the back behind Weiss. Just enough to chip the bat, looked like.
Wouldn't that have been something if he got hit again? I wonder if that's ever happened. Let me look that up.
Twice in the same inning?
It's happened twice. Willard Schmidt with Cincinnati in 1959 and Frank Thomas with the Mets in 1962. You might know it happened to somebody in those 62 Mets. Ball 4. Inning still going. Bases loaded for Keith Lockhart.
Point you made about a manager, how do you know when to warm somebody up? I think you have to reach a point where you don't see any improvement in what a pitcher is doing to make him ineffective. And it's the same thing with Carpenter over and over and over. Drop the elbow, squirt the ball up and away, and I think if you have a guy ready, you can't afford to go any longer with him.
And Dave Steeb's been starting down at Syracuse. It may take him a little longer to get ready. He's not one of those guys that can get up and get ready in a hurry. Ball in this inning. He's the 11th man to bat for Atlanta. 5 runs in. Bases loaded. 2 men out.
Good
1-1.
You might, if you have a veteran catcher back there seeing this happen, he might say, wait a minute, we're not doing anything with the fastball. We got nothing to lose by trying some off-speed stuff.
Well, your description of a moment ago is absolutely correct. He's just lost out there. He's just throwing the ball. Has no real control over any of his pitches. 2-1 the count. Ball 3.
This is one of those times where if you're Mel Queen or Timmy Johnson, you wish you could make 3 trips to the mound in an inning. Because it's the time for somebody to go talk to him. But look around the infield. Who are you going to pick to do it?
3-1. There's a strike. 3-2.
You have a young catcher. You have a young shortstop. You have a young second baseman. You have a young first baseman. And your veteran guy is a guy at third who isn't that much of a veteran. There really is nobody to take over that manager or coach's role and go have a conversation with a pitcher.
Everybody on the run on the 3-2 pitch. It's fouled away by Lockhart.
Probably the most appropriate guy to do it is playing left field. It's
True.
too far of a walk for him to come.
Too far of a walk, you're right. I don't think the umpires on a 98-degree afternoon would appreciate that. Now the 3-2 to Lockhart with the runners on the move. Popped him up. Might finally be out of the inning. First baseman Delgado in foul territory and runs out of room. When it's not going your way, it's not going your way.
When it's going your way, every matter of inches falls in a glove. When it's going against you, every matter of inches falls in the camera well. A little bit of a wind coming in from left. It's going to push it just enough to be out of reach.
So it's still 3-2 on Lockhart. And yet another pitch on the way from Carpenter. Deep to right. Fair or foul? Foul.
Not very far, just a little bit quick, probably about 10 feet.
Again, the 3-2. Line, right field, coming on is Green, makes the catch for out number 3. That ball was hit hard. A forgettable first inning for Chris Carpenter, a memorable first for Atlanta. 5-0. A big first inning for Atlanta. A 5-run lead for Tom Glavine to work with. Ed Sprague, Mark D'Alessandro, and Craig Graybeck due up here in the top half of inning 2.
I think your purpose as a manager, Pete, is to win ball games and then develop players, mature players for next year. With that thought, I'm not so sure down 5-0. If I were Tim Johnson, I would not send Chris Carpenter back out there in the second inning. Because part of maturing is finding out that when you make a mistake and when you hit a wall, it doesn't have to be a wall. It can be a curtain. And sometimes players never learn that every time you run up against something that's an adversity, it doesn't mean you got to stop and backtrack and go all the way back and start over. You can move forward through it.
We've seen a lot more of that this year from managers, going a little bit longer with starting pitchers after a rocky first inning, instead of digging into that bullpen so early into the game. Ed Sprague, a .241 hitter, 9 homers, takes ball 1.
Good example of that is, remember up in Montreal a few years ago, Steve Avery just got the daylights beat out of him in the first inning and then set down, what, the next 18?
Fouled back by Sprague. 1 ball, 1 strike.
And you accomplish the second part of your goal there. I think you always want to take something positive out of every performance. And right now, there's not a whole lot for that young man to build on.
Down the 1-1. Up the middle off the bat of Sprague. Walt Weiss on to Simon. 1 down. And that'll bring up the catcher, Mark D'Alessandro. It'll be his first appearance in this series, hitting .333, a couple of home runs and 7 RBIs. D'Alessandro got it, bounced around a couple of organizations, the Angels, the Yankees, the Cubs. A native of Chicago. Takes a strike. Takes another one, 0-2. In the air, right center, Tucker. For out number 2. Quickly, the first 2 down here in the top half of the second. Now the second baseman, Craig Graybeck.
Second baseman, number 4.
Ian Tony Fernandez sharing that position for the Blue Jays. Graybeck, a .277 hitter for the year. Gives you a little strike zone. He's only 5'6". Should be easy for Tucker and should be an easy inning for Tom Glavine. 1, 2, 3 go the Blue Jays in the second. Still 5-0. Braves coming back up. Chipper Jones leads it off. He was one of 11 Braves to bat in the first inning. He walked and scored. Good crowd here today. Everybody looking for seats in the shade. Sprague chasing it, but it's out of play. 0-1. And you were right, Don, about Carpenter. They are going to give him another inning at least to go out there and try to get himself straightened out, settle down.
Well, you already have your bullpen. Dave Stieb is ready, so unless he just starts giving up home runs on the first or second pitch, you can get in there before he does a whole lot of damage. What you're looking for is improvement. Just make an adjustment that makes it a little bit harder to hit you.
Here's the 2-1 now to Chipper, fouled away again, and the count even 2-2.
What he has done, with the exception of breaking ball, is get a little bit higher on his delivery. Guy as tall as he is, the elbow, the upper part of the arm should be at least 90 degrees with his shoulder when he throws. Come right up over the top. He kind of ducks down and pushes it up there.
Steve up again in the Blue Jay bullpen. And a 3-2 to Chipper Jones, fouled away, same spot again. Still 3-2.
And not being able to put the ball where you want it does something else. 3-2. It takes away throwing your second or third pitch. You know, if your control is good right now, you can afford to throw Chipper Jones a changeup or a breaking ball. But when you're struggling just to try to get anything over. And isn't that the way it goes? If you're struggling, you make 2 out pitches, 3-2, and what do you got? 2 foul balls, and you got to do it again.
He has already thrown 47 pitches as Chris Carpenter. Nobody out here in the bottom of the second. He may be reaching that point where he was about to throw his hands up in the air and say, I give up.
Yep.
I surrender.
Because
he's tried everything.
He's made 3 good pitches to Chipper Jones. But one thing I think you do have to admire, even after getting batted around in the first inning, he has come out aggressively here in this inning. Made some aggressive pitches to Chipper Jones.
Still 3-2.
Shows you the kind of quality fastball he has. Everybody in the world 3-2 thinking he's got to throw a fastball, and he's thrown 4 that Chipper Jones couldn't catch up to.
Again, the 3-2 to Chipper Jones. And this time, Carpenter wins the battle. Gets his first strikeout of the afternoon. 1 gone.
You know why he got that strikeout? Exactly what you said. He just threw his hands up in the air and said, I got nothing to lose. Here comes my changeup. Wasn't a strike, but he said, what the heck? The other's not working.
That's out number 1 in the bottom of the second. Now Ryan Klesko got the rally started with the first 2 RBIs on a base hit in the first inning. Off the end of the bat toward third. That is a foul ball. Close.
Looked like a little English off the end of the bat. Pushed that just outside of the bag. If Klesko doesn't slice that so much, he's probably got himself a double.
One out, base is empty, and the 0-1 pitch to Klesko. Grounded to the right side. Graybeck. Delgado, 2 down. And that'll bring up Javi Lopez, who popped out in the first. Now, if you're a pitcher and you get through this inning, if you can get a 1-2-3 second inning, then you start thinking, hey, maybe I can do a little damage control, pitch 3 or 4 more innings, and not take that big hit on the ERA.
The only thing going against you is you're the second hitter in the top of the third. Down by 5. But at least it's something positive to take to your throw session in between and into your next start.
1 ball, no strikes. One and one. Well, it happens to every pitcher. Every pitcher has one of those days when one of those big first innings is going to come up and jump at you. It even happened to Greg Maddux once this year.
I thought you were going to say once in his life.
Well, you're probably right. 1-1. 1-2. And I'll bet you that most times when a manager sticks with a pitcher through an inning like that, it's because he had great stuff warming up in the bullpen. Pitching coach will say, man, I can't get over this. He was outstanding warming up.
A lot of times, too, if you're a young pitcher, something that can cause you to have a shaky first inning is pitching to a reputation. You stop pitching to individual hitters and you think, boy, this is the Braves.
Here's the 2-2. Well, the last pitcher we saw have that kind of trouble in the first inning against Atlanta was Joe Fontenot of the Florida Marlins, who may have experienced that same feeling. He gave up 6 in the first. Second strikeout of the inning, a 1-2-3 inning for Carpenter. Some difference from the first one. Still 5-0 after 2. I've been in this business. You think you know everything that goes on, and I just am amazed by the number of new things you learn. I always thought cameramen wore headsets for communication. I didn't realize they wore them as a sort of batting helmet.
Yeah, and they used to make them sturdier than that. At least he took part of his Little League days to the camera. Remember they told you as a kid, keep your eye on the ball?
That away, JR. It'll be Alex Gonzalez leading off the third.
That look at JR was after a Honolulu night, wasn't it?
Gonzalez 244, 7 homers. In the air to right field. Michael Tucker's had a busy afternoon out there. Another catch, another out. That's 4 putouts for Michael Tucker. And 1 gone here in the third.
And right now he has the benefit of playing in the field that's not the Sun field. Chipper Jones, Walt Weiss, Ryan Klesko, and Andrew Jones are the 4 that for the next little while, anything that goes up in the air could be an adventure.
Well, that 1-2-3 second inning kept Chris Carpenter in this game. He's going to get another shot now. And he's going to get a chance to show what he can do with a bat in his hand for the first time. Big strike zone. Strike one.
I know we work here, but I like baseball in general. I love to see young kids get a chance to develop. I think it was really key giving him a chance to go back out there and work through something. What you saw out of him the second inning was using his second and his third pitch, buying himself time until the fastball did come around. He made some good pitches in the second inning.
Here's the 1-1. He fouls it off 1-2. And it's a credit to Tim Johnson. You know, the Blue Jays had that winning streak snapped yesterday, and they were talking coming into this series about trying to get into one of those winning 15 out of 17, 16 out of 18 kind of streaks to get them back in the race. But he also understands the long-range outlook for this ball club. If they're not going to win it all this year, and in all likelihood they are not, it's very important to develop these younger players.
Two reasons to play: win and build for the future.
2 down now in the third, and that'll bring up Shannon Stewart. They'll give Carpenter a chance to get back to the Blue Jay dugout.
Not quite as popular up there today as it is in the nighttime. That may be the hottest part in the ballpark right now.
They do have those misters up there, though.
And a few misses.
Which, well, I think once they discover that cool mist spray, you might see a few more up there. Stewart fly to right his first time. Fly ball left field. 6 pitches, 3 outs.
This is pitching with a lead. That's exactly the way you do it. By 10 glossy color prints featuring 10 different players in the Braves catalog. You'll also find them by visiting the Braves Clubhouse stores at North Point Mall and CNN Center. Both of those are great stores. You can order a Braves catalog by calling our automated system at 1-800-433-BRABES. Good stuff in that catalog.
Michael Tucker, an RBI single his first time up. 0-1 the count. Michael back in the number 6 spot on the order today. Randall, Simon on deck. Braves having to really juggle around the batting order the last few days, with Galarraga out of action, and now Curtis Pride out of action. That was a freak accident for Curtis Pride. Upset with an at-bat. Took the bat back into a little runway back behind the dugout, smacked it into a wall. The bat broke, and the splinter cut his finger. You can see the wrap around the finger. Required some stitches. He's going to be out of action for 2 weeks. 12 stitches to close the wound. Third strikeout for Carpenter, and now Randall Simon, who picked up where he left off last night at Richmond when he had that 10 RBI night. He had an RBI single in the first inning here. Randall, one of the last players cut by the Braves this spring. He was coming off a great season at Richmond last year, where he hit .308 and 45 doubles and drove in 102 runs, but had a rather slow first half for the Richmond Braves until that big game last night.
Openly disappointed this spring too when he was sent back to AAA.
That was not his first major league at bat in the first inning. He went 6 for 14 in a Braves uniform last year, right through the legs of Carpenter. And when it's not your day, it's not your day.
And everybody who has stood in the middle of the diamond has done this, and it always comes on a slow trickler. See, this ball would not make it all the way to second if he didn't touch it. Easy. Glove comes up. He doesn't lay leather on it.
So Simon reaching on the Carpenter error, and that'll bring up Andrew Jones. He had a base hit in the first inning.
When you do that and you're on national television, you just hope there was a power outage at about that time.
Right through there for a called strike. One and Andrew. Faced that high pitch, 1 ball, 2 strikes. That's the pitch that was striking out Andrew Jones early in the year.
And that's also the pitch that Carpenter was unable to make early in the ballgame. But now getting more up on top, getting a longer arm delivery, making some good pitches down and away. That pitch was impossible for him in the first inning.
1-2 the count.
Usually when you shake off that many, it's a breaking ball.
Stayed high and tight, 2-2. Tom Glavine on deck. Braves got all 5 of those runs in the first inning. Into right center field. Late jump for Shannon Stewart. Can't get to it. Around second, heading for third, Simon. He'll go in standing.
It's a good time for a trip to the mound by a pitching coach because he's done what you wanted him to do. He has battled back. He's collected himself. Now he makes an error. That has nothing to do with pitching. Makes a good pitch here. Center fielder takes 2 steps back before he decides to make a trip in. Good time to build on what he's done rather than tear it down.
Brings up the pitcher, Tom Glavine. He contributed in the first inning with an RBI single. Afternoon already for Carpenter.
Boy, that line on Glavine, that's what you love when you get a big lead and you get a 100-degree day. Efficient pitching.
Down the left field line. That is a fair ball headed toward the left field corner. Randall Simon scores. Andrew Jones scores. 2 more RBIs for Tom Glavine. It is now 7-0 Atlanta.
Well, you got to go get him now. It's unfortunate, but I don't think you can leave him out there any longer. An error, a blooper, and sooner or later somebody's going to hit one hard. Glavine, a good pitch down in the strike zone, down the left field line. I don't know where they were playing Tom Glavine, like a left-handed pull hitter, I guess. But you can't leave him out there a whole lot longer now because he's undoing what he accomplished in the second inning.
Tom Glavine had 2 RBIs on the season coming into this game. He's driven in 3 today, and here comes Tim Johnson. This will be the end of the day for Chris Carpenter. So the youngster from New Hampshire just didn't have it today. He is knocked out by the Braves in the 3rd inning, having given up 7 runs, 1 of them unearned because of his own error. 8 hits allowed, walked a couple, hit a batter, made an error. Just did not have a very good day. His day is done as manager Tim Johnson makes the Bell South call to the bullpen.
Some people say.
Well, the new pitcher with the Braves up 7-0, and quite a story this has been this year. Dave Stieb, who will be 41 years old on July 22nd, had not pitched professionally since 1993 after a stellar career in the major leagues, mostly with the Blue Jays. He won 175 games in his major league career, but out of the game for 5 years. The Blue Jays invited him to spring training this year as an instructor, and they saw him throwing BP a little bit, and they said, hey, you look like you're throwing pretty good. And the more they saw him, the more they liked. They asked him if he'd be interested in going to the minor league camp and attempting a comeback. He thought it over for about 5 seconds and said yes. And he went all the way down to the Florida State League to start the year. Pitched in 3 games there, won 2 of them. Promoted to Syracuse in AAA, went 5-4 and 9 starts there with a 2.73 ERA. And was pitching so well that the Texas Rangers called the Toronto Blue Jays and said, what do you plan to do with Dave Stieb? Because we'd like to make you an offer for him if you're going to leave him at AAA. Well, he had one of those things in his contract that he signed saying that if another team asked about bringing him up to the major leagues, he either had to be released or promoted to the big league team. And the Blue Jays said, we better bring him up. Don't want to lose him. Pitching is that scarce right now.
And, too, he's a part of their history, a part of their tradition. I don't think that they would have liked to have seen that happen. Boy, was he a competitor the first time through. Tough guy to go up against. He'd always try to find a way to beat you. Always in good shape. Always worked really hard at being a good pitcher.
One of the first guys he came and saw when he got to Atlanta with the Blue Jays was Bobby Cox, who was his manager in Toronto from 1982 through 85. And Bobby said as soon as he saw the note in spring training that Dave Stieb was attempting to come back, he knew he would make it and make it back to the big leagues. He said he's that kind of a bulldog competitor.
Tailing fastball, slider, both thrown from 3/4 to high 3/4.
Walt Weiss has been up twice in the game, hit by a pitch once, walked once.
He was always a ground ball strikeout pitcher.
Two-one on the way. Ground ball left side, fielded by Sprague, bobbled by Sprague. Another boot. Second error of the inning.
Off speed, in on the fist. Weiss. The only thing he could do is go the other way with it. Can't see any real reason for that one not being handled.
First and second, still only one out in the inning. Keith Lockhart will be the batter. Lockhart is singled and fly to right. Both those at bats coming in the first inning. Steve pitched a no-hitter for the Blue Jays against Cleveland back in 1990, and he also came within one out 3 other times of pitching a no-hitter.
Well, he had the kind of stuff, Pete. Sometimes you'd watch him start the first inning and you'd say, hey, he's got the stuff for a no-hitter. And you would say that 10, 12 times during the season.
1988 against the Cleveland Indians in September. 2 outs in the 9th inning, a no-hitter going. Julio Franco got a base hit to break it up. His next start against Baltimore. 2 outs in the 9th inning, a no-hitter going. Jim Traber base hit to break it up. Lockhart hit by a pitch. And then a year later, in August of '89, 2 outs in the 9th inning against the Yankees, no-hitter going. Pat Kelly a double to break it up. He finally got one against the Indians in 1990. Bases loaded again for Chipper Jones.
You try to teach kids the right way to play and to always remember what to do. But it was a funny sight just then having Delgado come in and remind Steve, if it comes to you, you go to the plate with it. Just doing his job.
Jones has walked and struck out. Ground ball second, fielded by Graybeck to Gonzalez for one, and the first in time, double play. So Steve comes in, and despite the error, and despite the hit batsman, gets out of the inning with no further damage. But it's 7-0 now, Atlanta.
Update that for you. They've added another one in the bottom of the second. They're tied 2-2. You're up to date on the Office Depot scoreboard.
And it'll be those Tampa Bay Devil Rays that the Braves see next. After an off day tomorrow, the Braves are in Tropicana Field on Tuesday night. Denny Nagel against Tony Saunders.
You and I have already worked one down there, so it won't be our first shot.
We got a chance to see that ballpark and see that ball club in the latter stages of the spring training schedule. There you see the pitching matchups. And Sean Green leading off the 4th inning. He singled his first time up. Only hit allowed by Glavine. 0-1.
What Tom Glavine did last half inning is just take the short part of the ballpark out of play, make pitches on the outer third of the plate and say, guys, put it in play. I've got 3 outfielders dying to run some down.
0-2. And then after that Tampa Bay series, the Braves back home for the final weekend before the All-Star break, and it'll be finally the Braves look at the New York Mets. Braves and Mets have not hooked up this year. They will starting next Friday, and that'll be Tom Glavine's next start. 1-2.
Another byproduct of the balanced schedule and interleague play.
Braves a 7.5 lead over New York coming into today's action. 2-2. Another fly ball. This one to left field. Ryan Klesko late jump, still caught it. Good recovery by Klesko. He got a little bit of a late start after that one.
See it off the bat. There's Klesko, a little half step to his left, and then once he takes off, got to turn it up a notch here. What he did do, Pete, was go up on the right foot and time his jump just right to catch it in the web of the glove. I think the most improved outfielder in the league this year.
One gone. 7 of the outs recorded by Tom Glavine. Fly balls to the outfield.
And again, taking the short part of the park out of play.
Mike Stanley hit by a pitch his first time up. Stanley just celebrated a birthday, just turned 35. Began his major league career with the Rangers, then a longtime Yankee, then a Boston Red Sox player for a couple of years, then back to the Yankees for one. 2-2.
He can be your emergency, a number of players, but is good designated hitter.
Here's the 2-2. Full count now, 3-2 on Stanley out of the University of Florida.
I didn't know he was a Gator.
All SEC catcher for 2 years and all academic team 1 year back in the early 80s. And draws a walk here.
First base swings Carlos Delgado.
First walk issued by Glavine. That'll bring up Carlos Delgado, hit into a 6-4-3 double play in the first inning. This guy's a good-looking hitter.
And strong. You have to be strong to hit the way he does and as successfully as he has. He takes outside pitches and just muscles them into right field.
Another homegrown product here in Toronto. Blue Jays have had a very, very, very solid farm system ever since their existence. And it continues this year. Their farm teams have the highest winning percentage right now, collectively, of any farm system in baseball. Gets away from Lopez. Stanley down to second. Count 2-0 now on Delgado.
Let's see if this is a wild pitch or a pass ball. It looked like it might have been one of those, boy, it sure is hot up in the dirt. But he tried to catch it instead of blocking it.
Be a wild pitch charge to Glavine. 2-1. But there was a time, Don, when you looked around at almost every contending team in baseball, and they all had outfielders who began their careers in Toronto.
Yes.
They were feeding major league teams with outfielders and trades. Deep to left field off Delgado's bat. That's going to drop in. One hop the wall out there. It's going to get the first run home for the Blue Jays as Delgado drives in his 47th run of the year.
And that's an adjustment we haven't seen him make either, going the other way. You saw in the graphic earlier, 45 of his hits have gone to right field. He's been pulling everything, but he saw Tom Glavine going out there. That was a deliberate attempt to hit it down the left field line. Did just that. To double the RBI, his 47th.
Still only one out in the inning, and Ed Sprague will be the batter. He grounded out to short his first time up. Nothing in one. making the count 0-2. One ball, 2 strikes on Sprague. Another fly ball, right center. Andrew Jones there for the catch, tagging at second. Delgado. He'll come over to third. Another fly ball out. 2 men gone. And now Mark D'Alessandro.
Getting those runs off of Carpenter to third are very big now, because a 5-1 ball game. Day like today, the ball is going to travel some. A little bit more. It could make you a little bit more nervous. That 6-run lead is awfully nice cushion for Tom Glavine.
Trying to match Greg Maddux with his 11th win. People still talking today about that masterpiece that Maddux threw last night. Shortest game in the major leagues this year, 1 hour and 46 minutes. No walks, 13 strikeouts.
104 pitches.
Off the end of the bat, 1-1.
And to a lot of people's credit, and it made me, I was awfully glad to hear it, they're also talking about the job Guzman did.
Yes.
Pitched a heck of a ball game. 1, maybe 2 pitches he'd like to have back, but he too was very efficient and worked quickly last night.
1-1, the count on D'Alessandro. Little roller back to Glavine. On to first in time, and that'll do it for Toronto in the 4th. They break through, get their first run of the afternoon, but that's all. 7-1 Atlanta.
Having a Blue Jay tone during their trip here. The only Blue Jay to win an MVP award. Muse on that for a while, and next half inning we'll give you the answer.
Going now to the bottom half of the 4th inning. A very, very warm afternoon here at Turner Field, but the fans came prepared. They've got their fans. They've improvised some fans. Brought the sun umbrellas. I mean, everybody's ready for a warm afternoon of baseball. You know it's going to be warm. You just prepare for it when you come out here. Brian Klesko will lead off here in the 4th inning. I'm not quite sure I understand the importance of getting to your seat an hour and a half before game time when that sun is beating down on you, like some of the fans did today, but hey, whatever. Klesko 1 for 2, a 2-run single in the 1st inning. 0-1. Want to send along birthday wishes today from the Braves front office to Winston Mashburn, 78 years old, in Lowell, Georgia. Never misses a Braves telecast. Oh, 0-2. Klesko now up to 283 for the year. About a month ago, he was in the 230s.
Well, that number started climbing when he started using the whole field again.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Always enjoyed June, hasn't he?
Another opposite field single. Klesko now 4 hits and 8 trips in this series, and they've all been, with the exception of the home run, up the middle or the other way.
That's taking what the pitcher gives you. As big and as strong as he is, the home runs will accidentally come, and he'll probably hit more not trying to hit him than he would if he had tried to hit him. Stays back, barrel of the bat. The hands come through the barrel of the bat through last. That's how you hit an outside pitch to left field.
Javi Lopez taking a strike. He's 0 for 2. He's popped to second and struck out. He is the only member of the starting lineup today who has not yet reached base for him out. He has now. Runners first and second, nobody out in the bottom of the fourth. Braves picking up against the veteran Dave Stieb, just as they did against the youngster Chris Carpenter.
And Stieb's keeping the ball down in the strike zone. You just have to give the Braves hitters some credit for taking what he has given them and not trying to do too much with it.
Michael Tucker, an RBI single in the first, struck out in the third.
I'm waiting for a cool day, Pete. So you and I can break out our Statler Brothers coffee mugs.
Yeah, we'll do that. We want to thank Don and Harold Reed for sending those along. Enjoyed meeting them up in Baltimore.
A little too hot for coffee today, for some of us.
1-1 on Michael Tucker.
Stieb still has a quick little slider, doesn't he? And he has kept everything down. According to Eric Gregg, Michael Tucker went around, and Tucker's doing the right thing. Well, you umpire here.
Pretty close.
That's borderline, but Tucker doing what you ought to do. Just get out, collect yourself. You know, shake your head if you want to, but that's over. There's nothing you can do about it.
Michael's batting average back up to 280 after that string. Towards second sharply. Nice play. Grebeck goes to Gonzalez on to first. Not in time at first. There's that hustle of Michael Tucker. It was a little bit overly aggressive in the first inning. Rounded the bag a little too far, but he never fails to go hard down the first baseline.
And I'll tell you what that shows me, too, is he got that check swing call out of his mind. Focused on hitting the ball. That's over. This is now. You hit the ball, put some hustle on, bang, bang, play, but only because he hustled out of the batter's box. So if you're standing there now still complaining and griping about that call check swing, there's no way you beat that out.
First and third now with one out for Randall Simon. RBI single his first time up, reached on an error his next time up, has scored 2 runs. Called up from Richmond after his career best game last night. 4 for 5, a double, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. That's a month's worth for some players.
Did he finish the game?
Yes, he did. And then went into the clubhouse after the game and got the news he was being called back to the big leagues. Have a night.
See, one of the stories that I heard was that it was when they called him in off the field, it was about the 7th inning. I'm glad to find that that wasn't true, because I think I'd have been tempted to say, hold on a second, guys. You know, put that call on hold. I want one more at bat.
One and one on Simon. Like Andrew Jones, Randall Simon, a native of Curacao. High and deep to right center field. Green going back to the warning track, makes the catch. Tagging at third is Klesko. He'll come on to score the Braves' 8th run. Give Randall Simon another RBI, his 2nd of the day and his 12th in the last 2 games.
You're going to make outs, make them productive. Another Stieb pitch down in the strike zone, ankle high. Randall Simon may have that Gerald Williams strike zone where if you bounce it, it's the middle of his strike zone. Got enough on that to get it out to the outfield for the sac fly.
It is now 8-1. And the batter is Andrew Jones. 2 for 2, pair of singles. He has scored 1 run. He takes a strike on 1. Stanley. Hadn't played the outfield since 1987, but he makes the catch. And that's out number 3 here in the bottom half of the 4th inning. One more Atlanta run. 8-1 Braves.
Dilbert for Office Depot.
I've decided to you by Office Depot. Guaranteed low prices on everything from paper clips to computers. Business is crazy, but Office Depot makes sense. And by UPS, moving at the speed of business.
Good Sunday afternoon crowd here at Turner Field. Time for us to remind you of our Aflac trivia question. It was the only Blue Jay to win an MVP award. It came in 1987, and it was one of those outfielders they developed for some other organization. Bell hit .308, 47 homers, 111 runs scored, and 134 RBIs. And I'd like to say I contributed to that.
And we go to the 5th inning. Greg Graybeck, Alex Gonzalez, Chris Carpenter due up. Strike in the outside corner to Graybeck. He flied to right his first time up. A lot of fly ball outs off Glavine today. Only 2 hits allowed, 1 run. Braves up by 7. 1-1. Another fly ball straight away center. 1 gone. Well, the Braves will get a chance to escape a little bit of this heat when they get into Tampa, playing in the dome there. A little bit cooler.
Hitter friendly. We get a chance to see if they've changed the rules on the catwalks down there. Remember, we predicted when we were down there they were going to have a controversy with that.
And it didn't take long for that to begin. One ball, no strikes. Walt Weiss for out number 2.
Glavine is just taking the middle of the strike zone out of play and throwing 1 strike right after the other. Change-up strike, fastball strike. He hasn't shown his curveball yet, but he hasn't had to. He has a 7-run lead.
Well, all those years in the American League for Dave Stieb. Finally gets to do something he hasn't done very often. Just that one time.
And knowing him and his personality, I'll bet you he thinks he's a good hitter.
One and one.
Took some trips back in the 80s with Dave Stieb. A shoe company took a lot of players on some trips. Very personable, intelligent guy.
Loop to right. Out of play.
And you got the feeling, Pete, that he was a kind of athlete like a Robin Yount, like an Andy Messersmith, who would have been successful in any sport he had picked up.
He's been an inspiration to some other veterans who are trying to duplicate that comeback. Jim Abbott back in the minor leagues now, trying to work his way back to the majors.
Lee Smith.
1, 2, 3. Go the Blue Jays in the 5th. 8-1 Atlanta.
Serious series with the New York Mets next weekend. That should be fun to watch. We got our Tampa Bay Devil Ray media guides for the road trip today. First-year expansion team. They have a 324-page media guide.
About a 5-pounder.
A lot of history there.
Yeah, well, they have a lot to talk about. They've been waiting a long time to get Major League Baseball. Javi Lopez leads off the bottom half of the 6th inning. Javi today, 1 for 3. That was a single. And he hits that one through the wicket and into center for a hit. And a good start to the 6th. The carnage continues here. Well, congratulations to Jenna and Peyton Morris, who were wed yesterday in Conyers. Peyton is the Braves mailroom director, and his dad is Mike Morris, who takes care of us up in the press room every day. A great guy. We're happy for all of them. Congratulations.
Hope they had a good day.
May your first be as good as my second. Marriage. The pitch is the strike. 0-1. Tucker 1-for-3 with an RBI. 12 hits for Atlanta now. A ball and a strike. I'll say this for Steve. He doesn't mess around.
No, he never did, and he's always had his claim to fame was a good fastball that had some movement on it. He cut it a little bit and had an excellent slider. He always had the slider, and it's still a good pitch for him.
Outside to Tucker, 2 balls and a strike. The Cubs have an early lead, 3-0 over Kansas City. They've lost 7 in a row. They're 6 games behind Houston now and in 3rd place. Milwaukee is 5 games out. The 2-1 swung and missed. He had a home run cut, but it came up empty.
Well, they better not let Houston get too far ahead of them, because that's a good ball club.
Sure is. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Full count now, 3-2.
I was thinking about Steve's at bat earlier. He signed, his first year was 20 years ago, 1978, when he signed with the Blue Jays, and he was an All-American outfielder and DH at Southern Illinois. And I'm sure he'd been looking for a long time forward to that first at bat in the big leagues, and too bad it didn't work out for him.
That's going to be out of play into the seats. Yeah, he was a Saluki. Nickname for Southern Illinois. You know what that is?
Yes, I do. It's a breed of dog.
Egyptian hunting dog. Yeah. 3-2 the count. Our fund of information is
Endless.
That's a strikeout. Again, the slider victimizes Tucker. That's the 3rd strikeout for Steve in the game. I was about to say our knowledge was limited, but
I'm glad you let me finish it then.
if you choose to lie, it's okay with me. Here's Randall Simon. He's had a good day. Sacrifice fly, a single. He scored 2 runs, driven in 2.
The last 18 hours have been very good for him.
What else? 44,185 the paid attendance. Not a sellout, but a fine turnout nonetheless. Line to 3rd, out there, over to 1st, safe there. You're right, he doesn't mess around up there. He's up there hacking away. And he hit that ball hard.
He says that he realized right away, once he got to AAA and started having some success, that no one was going to give in to him. They were going to pitch him away a lot. And he said, I had to learn to hit the ball the other way if I was going to stick around in this game. Hit that one on the nose right at the 3rd baseman.
Andrew Jones, the batter. Andrew, a 2-hit day. And he corks a rifle shot into center that's going to be caught. Stewart hauls it in. That ball was hit right on the nose. 1 hit. No runs, no errors. 1 left at the end of 6. Your score. 9-2 Atlanta.
And the Super Value Menu. 9 years of 99 cents every day.
We go to the 7th inning here. Mark D'Alessandro will lead it off. He's 0 for 2. Glavine has a 4-hitter through 6. The pitch. Swung line. There's a solid hit for D'Alessandro into center.
Now, this guy's a good story. You know, he was a #1 pick by the Angels, and then after about 5 years in their organization was released, signed with the Yankees, played a year in the minor leagues with the Yankees, and was granted free agency at the end of that minor league year. Signed with the Cubs, same thing again, and then signed with Toronto and never gave up. Kept believing in himself. Was at the right place at the right time. Got a call up this year and playing pretty well for Toronto now.
You know, that's a good point you bring up, and I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm probably gonna. The pitch outside, 1 ball, no strikes. You were a highly regarded prospect, and maybe with another, we'll never know, and I know it's the frustrating thing, maybe with another team other than the Dodgers, your career, not that it was a bad one at all, but it might have been a much better one. See if they can get two. They can. 5-4-3.
I just felt like I could have been in the big leagues a lot sooner with somebody else. I was with a good organization, not a whole lot unlike what some of the minor league players are going through with the Braves organization.
Randall Simon being a perfect example.
Up against it a little bit, trying to figure out a way to work your way onto the ball club. But I kept, this is something I think that's good about minor league managers and coaches. I kept getting great encouragement from people like Del Crandall, Stan Wozniak, Jimmy Williams, not that Jimmy Williams was with the Braves, but another Jimmy Williams who had coached in the big leagues for Houston, who all believed in the way I was playing and just kept saying somebody will notice and you'll get a chance somewhere else. And I think that's what people like D'Alessandro have to keep doing, believing in themselves and getting a little encouragement, sticking with it.
In your case, it was Seattle, and you went on to have a productive career there. But you're right, you could have been in the big leagues maybe 4 or 5 years earlier. Fly ball right field again. Tucker battles the sun, makes the catch, and another inning is history. 1 hit. No runs, no errors, and nobody left. We go to the bottom half of the 7th inning. It's all Atlanta, 9-2. Evans' day's work is done. Tony Graffinino will hit for him on this hot day, with his team on top 9-2. Glavine went 7 innings. He allowed 5 hits, 2 runs. They were earned. He didn't walk. He walked 1, struck out 1. 1 hit batsman, 1 wild pitch, 1 homer. He filled up all the columns and pitched extremely well. Rudy Cianez was up in the Atlanta bullpen. He may work next. Tony Graffinino having an awful year. He's hitting just .203. Steve continues to work. He was used as a starting pitcher at Syracuse, so he's used to long stints. Tony takes low, 1 ball, no strikes. 9-12-0 for Atlanta, 2-5-2 for Toronto. And it is Cianez who is heating up. Strike called, 1-1.
It's that slider again from Steve. He may not have the arm action he had 15 years ago, but it's still a good breaker.
That's by far his best pitch from what we've seen today. Just a little bit inside, 2-1. What we were talking about before about opportunity for players, we use Joe as an example, but there are so many of those stories. High fly ball center field. Stewart going back. He's going to get there shy of the track. 1 out.
There's one going on right now in San Diego, and that's Ed Giovanola.
Yeah.
He kept coming up and down with the Braves. He was a solid defensive player. He'd get a few opportunities at bat. But by and large, you knew when Mark Lemke was ready to play, he was going to be in the lineup, and Ed would go back to Richmond, and now he's in a place where Giovanola is getting a chance to play more, and he's productive for the Padres.
Ozzie Guillen bats for the first time in the game and skies 1 to right. Green is there waiting, and there are 2 out. You know, it works the other way too, Joe. There have been guys who come up and pinch hit or used as spot players, and then when they get their chance, can't play at all.
There was an old adage that we had when I was still playing, that there are some players who have to prove that they can play, and then there are those few who have to prove that they can't play.
Yeah.
There are some of those guys who were high draft picks, or there was a lot of money invested in them, where the organization gave them every opportunity to fail, and they did eventually.
Drive to right off the bat of Lockhart, but not far enough, and if I'm not mistaken, that was a 3-pitch inning. At the end of 7, 9-2 Atlanta.
Their lead over Cleveland to 8-2. Bell and Alou have homers there. Cincinnati leading Detroit 5-1. 6-2 Montreal over Baltimore. Vladimir Guerrero has a homer, his 14th of the year in that one. Tampa Bay and Philadelphia now tied at 4. McGriff has hit his 8th. Milwaukee leads the White Sox 5-4. 3-0. The Cubs now leading Kansas City. Pat Rapp and Gonzalez going at it there. Minnesota leading St. Louis 2-1. No home runs in that ball game. Oakland got a run in the first at Colorado. And everything else gets underway a little bit later. For all the latest news and notes, rather, from around the diamond, as well as the box score and all the stats from tonight's games or this afternoon's games, click on CNNSI.com, the ultimate address for sports. I love it.
Bunch of changes here for Atlanta. Gerald Williams is in left field. Tony Graffinino is at second base. And Rudy Cianez comes on to pitch. And Juan Samuel will pinch hit for Dave Steve.
I can say Eddie Perez's name a whole lot better than I can say CNNSI.com.
It is hard to say, but they do a good job. Samuel hits one high and far, but way foul. Into the club level and fumbled back downstairs again. Some things never change. You think you see a little improvement, and then 0-1 the count.
Getting near the end of the homestand, they're getting complacent.
Yeah, man, that might be it. Pop foul back the other way.
Samuel's happy to have a foul ball right now. Struck out 4 times last night against Maddox. And I doubt that's happened to him too often in his career.
Well, he's a pretty good ball player and has been for a long time. Little squibber to first. Simon has it, steps on the bag, wins the race, 1 down. Give Samuel credit there. It's a hot day. He knew he was going to be out, but he busted it down the line, made it a 1-step play. Top of the order, Shannon Stewart 0 for 3. He's flied to right, flied to left, grounded to short. Actually, this has turned into be a fast game considering all the runs that are scored. Low and away, 1-0.
Rudy has pitched well. Bobby keeps giving him more and more opportunities, and he throws hard. He has not walked many batters. He's been giving up a few hits here and there, but he's been, for the most part, he's been keeping the ball down and getting some ground balls and a lot of strikeouts.
That's a tough adjustment, too, I think, if you're in the minor leagues and being used as a closer and then thus pitching quite a bit. And then suddenly you're up here and you get in once a week. I know they throw on the side, but it's different.
Yeah, he admitted that, too. He said that we can get a lot of work in and you can throw on the side or in the bullpen or whatever, but he said it's the mental side, the edge that you have when you're in the game that you start losing.
3-0 pitch. There's one right through there. Our buddy Bruce Fremming waved up here, saw me laughing at him between innings. Tough day for the umpires, boy. Pop foul back and out of play, full count.
Hot day for Eric Gregg. He's back out there at third base.
Doesn't bother Rudy Cianez. He's born in Brawley, California, lives now in El Centro. It doesn't get hotter anywhere in this country than El Centro, California. And he battled back and got him looking. 2 down.
Like he got him with an off-speed pitch or a breaking ball. Let's take a look. Yeah, maybe he cut his fastball a little bit, but that had a little drop to it. Good pitch.
Rudy's been with Cleveland, San Diego, and the Dodgers in the major leagues, as well as Atlanta. Spent a lot of time on the disabled list with various problems. Back problems a couple of times. A strike to Sean Green. Braves signed him as a 6-year free agent last December. The 0-1 downstairs, a ball and a strike. There's a drive into deep right center. Let's see if the park will hold it. Nope. Into the front row, and it's 9-3, and Green has his second homer of the day. And his 15th of the year.
7 for 13 in this series. And his swing is so good. I love the way he keeps his hands back. He reminds me a little bit of John Olerud with his swing. Good low ball hitter. Great extension. But watch how his hands go back here to start his swing. Look where he starts his hands from. Way back over that back foot. Then some good extension. Getting against a firm front side. That is a classic swing.
Mike Stanley gives Michael Tucker another chance, and he's equal to the task. And the inning is over. 1 hit, 1 run. No errors and no one left. We go to the bottom half of the 8th inning. 9-3 Atlanta.
Hey, nice crowd tonight.
Oh, yeah. We talked to our manager, and he said that we can't play for free beer anymore.
Duhar comes on to pitch. He's been in 4 games at an earned run average of 9.64, and major league hitters are hitting a lusty .435 against him. But that earned run average can go down in a hurry with a couple of good outings. Chipper Jones leads it off.
Sorry, Skip. First time he's worked in 8 days, and the last outing he had was a 5-hit 2-run outing over 1 inning.
Downstairs, 1 ball, no strikes. He was 3-2 with 8 saves at Syracuse and a 2.12 earned run average. So he's going through the same thing that Rudy Cianez is going through. From being a saver who worked in a lot of games to spot duty. 2 balls and a strike to Chipper, who is hitless again today. He has a sacrifice fly, has driven in his 63rd run of the year. Gerald Williams is on deck. 3-1 the count.
Again, keep an eye on Chipper's front foot just to see if he's stepping out a little bit.
Grounded to first. That'll be easy. 1 down.
He has a bit more of an open stance left-handed to begin with, but if he doesn't, it seems to me in the past when he takes that little stutter step, it goes back, it closes up more than he is closing up right now. His hips already almost completely open by the time he starts his swing.
Gerald Williams hits for the first time in the game. Strike called 0-1. Isn't that amazing how guys can get so hot and then a little mechanical thing somehow you get started with a bad habit and it louses you all up. 0-2.
Sometimes it takes a while, and I'm not saying that's it. But once in a while something will be tough to pick up what you're doing too.
And then if you've gotten in the habit, even though you know what you're doing, that pitch won't count. Gerald had asked for time. You can't. It's like keep your head down playing golf. Well, that's easy to say, but it's very hard to do.
And you get in the batting cage and you work and you work and you wear out the pitching machine or the coaches, and you think you've got it figured out because they're not throwing as hard and your timing is a little different. And you get in the game and you think you've got to maybe tune it up a notch. You've got to hurry a little bit instead of having confidence in your hands and letting them do the job.
Sprague cuts over. Close play, but he got him. 2 down. Here's Javi Lopez. Javi 2 for 4 on the afternoon.
Keeps his hitting streak alive, too. It's at 8 games.
What a year he's having. If he doesn't make the All-Star team, it's a joke.
And it seems like he's always like the 4th or 5th or 6th name mentioned when you talk about the Atlanta Braves after the pitchers and Galarraga and Chipper Jones.
Of course, Jason Kendall having a big year at Pittsburgh. And that rule where each team has to have one guy might work against them. Piazza will be the leading vote getter, I imagine.
I think it's one of those situations where if he doesn't make it, it would be a real sad omission. Leading the majors in hitting with runners in scoring position, more homers and RBIs than any other catcher in the game. And with more teams in the league now, it makes it even tougher, doesn't it?
Up the middle, his 3rd hit of the day.
2 more players, 2 more teams that have to be represented with expansion.
Who was it the other day? Oh, it was Terry Francona. Called Bobby. And on his answering machine left like a 10-minute plea for one of his players to make the All-Star team. Yeah, I guess it was for Curt Schilling. I guess just out of the habit of the Braves manager always being the guy, and he said Bobby's going to think I'm a nitwit. And then he called Jim Leyland. 1-0 the count. I know Bobby will miss the camaraderie and the honor of managing the All-Star game, but he's certainly not going to miss the player selection thing. It's impossible to do justice to everybody.
It's a real headache.
2-0 the count. Runner at first, 2 out. Michael Tucker 1 for 4. Bobby's in scoring position, and the count goes to 3-0. Randall Simon is hopeful that he'll walk, so he gets another at bat here. In case you missed it earlier, last night Curtis Pride in frustration slammed his bat against what turned out to be a concrete wall. The bat shattered and cut his hand. He's had some stitches and has been placed on the disabled list. And Simon last night set a modern-day International League record with 3 homers, a double, and 10 runs driven in minor league ball. And he does get another chance to hit. 2 on, 2 out.
And against the guy he probably faced earlier this year.
Yeah. He speaks 5 languages, as does Andrew. The pitch. Fastball outside. 1 ball, no strikes. He's all over the place. Hot shot, left field, base hit. Javi around third. They send him home, and he will make it. And it's 10-3, and Randall Simon drives in his 3rd run of the day. Welcome back.
Curacao connection today, 4 for 8 with 3 runs scored, 3 RBIs. All the RBIs coming from Randall Simon, who again goes the other way. He hit that line shot at the 3rd baseman his last time up. 13 RBIs in 2 days aren't too bad at any level.
Not at all. Andrew Jones, the hitter, he's got a couple of hits, 2 for 4. He's scored a run. Tony Graffinino waits on deck. "14 hits for Atlanta and 10 runs. Tapped foul, evens the count. A ball and a strike. Bobby Dews makes the play and flips it into the seats. And a fan fumbles it into the Toronto dugout. And the Blue Jays return the ball to a youngster. A ball and a strike. 2 on, 2 out. Slider outside, 2-1. Luis Andujar is struggling here.
He struggles with another one of those breaking balls. Andrew's liable to lose it for him.
He fouls it away instead. It's 2-2. We'll be with you at 7 o'clock, I think, on Tuesday night.
Denny Nagel against Tony Saunders, and remember how tough Saunders was on the Braves.
Yes, we get, even when he goes to the other league, we have to face him. Line drive right at the shortstop. Andrew hit it hard. The inning is over. The Braves get a run on 2 hits and leave 2. We go to the 9th. It's all Atlanta. It's 10-3. TBS 10-3 is our score. And today on TBS, Clint Eastwood and Jeff Bridges star in Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. That's beginning at 4:20 Eastern on the Superstation.
Wow.
Well, I gave you a little.
Got my attention. A little fire and brimstone.
Well, you got to do that every now and then.
Uh-huh.
John Rocker is on to pitch. Cianez won an inning, struck out 1, allowed 1 hit. Unfortunately, it was a homer. And 1 run.
Rocker's numbers good, a 2.7 ERA, and with Alan Embry gone, he's going to get a lot more work.
Carlos Delgado has had another good day. We'll face him. He's 2 out of 3 with an RBI. Has hit the ball on the nose every time. 0-1 the count. Hey, this is sort of an interesting concept they're trying out in Colorado today. Oakland got a run in the first, and I guess Colorado didn't get the bat. No score, and they're in the second. I mean, there's nothing up there, and they're in the second. Interesting. 1-1 the count. There's the first out. 1 down. Well, if you promise to patronize our sponsors, about time to walk your cockapoo, or whatever kind of dog you have. John Sherholz has a cockapoo called Cuddles. It's going to be featured in the Braves Wives calendar that's coming up. 1-0 the count.
He's limbering up now. You got to see the leash on that thing.
Looping liner to Graffinino, 2 down. So Sprague is 0 for 4. And Mark D'Alessandro is the last hope for Toronto. And the crowd is not on their feet rooting for the last out.
They're not exactly urging them on here.
I think people are
now here they come.
plumb tired. D'Alessandro 1 for 3. Ground ball to short. Guillen has it, and the old ball game is over. And the Braves bounce back and win 2 out of 3 as they beat the Blue Jays 10-3.
Our AutoZone player of the game is Tom Glavine. A lot of times we'll give you a lot of numbers and stats on Tom Glavine's pitching, and there they are. He pitched a great ball game, but he also equaled his career high in a regular season game with 3 RBIs, including this base hit in the first inning. That plated Randall Simon and capped off some scoring for the Braves in their 5-run first, and then a thing of beauty, a slicing double down into the left field corner. That drove in 2 runs back in the 3rd inning. Simon and Andrew Jones scored. Andrew scoring all the way from first. But a great day all the way around for Tom Glavine, our AutoZone player of the game. Braves a winner 10-3. Back to wrap it up at Turner Field right after this.